Hey everybody, Z Garcia here, and today I'm taking a look at a couple of games in a pocket investigation series of games called Crime Zoom. In each of these boxes, you are presented with a case, a whodunit that you need to try to solve cooperatively or alone. You can play solitaire or up to 6 players in these. Each one contains 55 cards and a little booklet to get you going. And the very first thing you'll do is set up a display that shows you that opening scene in the case. And from there, you can start flipping cards over, reading more in detail what's going on in that part of the image, and then grabbing other cards as indicated by that in order to follow leads and investigate. I am going to be showing you the original display, so the very first thing in this one, his last card. I'll be talking about them both sort of together in the final thoughts, but I do want to tell you that I'm not going to be spoiling anything again besides that original display, and I'll flip over one of those cards, which you would do in the first 3 minutes of the game, okay? Past that, I'm not going to be showing you much from here and nothing at all from this one, all right? So let's go ahead and dive into it. Let me tell you a little bit of how the game works, and I'll see you back up here in just a little bit. To set up the game and start playing, we simply remove this deck from the box. It will be numbered in the top corner here, and we read this setup. So it says, take the 15 cards that don't have a number in the top left corner, set up the main scene that is composed of the cards as shown below, which I've already done right here. Then stack the remaining cards face down to create the lead deck. You are now ready to investigate this crime scene. Turn this card over to begin. We flip this over and it gives us the setup. Brooklyn neighborhood. December 1980, New York. On Sunday around 7 p.m., an anonymous neighbor alerted 911 that shots have been fired at Mr. Frank Bucko's home in a poor Brooklyn neighborhood. The police broke down the door, which was locked from the inside, and discovered a crime scene. Questioning the neighbors in this dilapidated building reveals nothing useful. The other tenants are poor families and drug addicts who distrust the police. So, this one's done here. You can set this aside anywhere, and then the first 15 are out here, and 16 on down through 54 are in this deck right here, which you just set aside. And now you are free to look at and explore and investigate whatever you want. So you would then, looking at all these cards, pick whatever you want to look at, flip that card over and see what's on the back of the card, okay? Those are going to give you then new numbers which point you to the deck, and you can look at those. And you can keep going until you want to choose to stop. At that point then, in the book here, you are going to have questions in the back as to the whodunit, who did it, why, where can you find the criminal, that sort of thing. And you'll be given a number of points, and you read an epilogue in the story, all right? So, I'm going to reveal one card, one that everybody is going to look at. I'm going to look at this body, but I will not show you anything else, and I'm not going to show you any of these cards. So, I assume everyone's going to look at the body. So, this is just so you see what this looks like. So, we would all the players choose. Let's look at the body a little more closely. You reveal the card, and you look at it. It says a bullet to the head, which entered through the forehead and splashed blood on the wall. And then at the bottom of that, it says 29 autopsy report. 29 meaning the 29th card in here numbered 29. So that's a new clue we can follow. We can choose to go and do that right now. Or we could keep revealing these cards, right? That's it. Until you, again, choose you want to stop. And I'm not going to show you anything else here, but you can study these cards as closely as you want to on this side before you choose to reveal them. At the very end of the game, besides getting points for getting some of the answers correctly, you are going to get an extra point for every 5 cards that you did not reveal. So if I leave some of these face down, I never looked at them, and then there's some of these we never got through, then you will add for every 5 of those 1 star, as they call it, to your final score, and see how well you did, okay? Though there is no chart in the book, here in the rule book, for a ranking of how well you did. They do not say, oh, if you have 5 between, 5 and 10 stars, you did a decent job. If you have 11 or more stars, very good, you did great. If you have more than 15, you're an amazing investigator. They do not have that. There's no such thing as that. You just write down there. You write down the date, the investigators, your score, and that's it. You, I guess, then give this to someone else and see if they do better than you or not, okay? That's all there is to it. Let's go ahead and go back up top. So that is Crime Zoom. There have been a lot of game series in this style recently. These games which present either an escape room style game in a box or a crime whodunit in a box, which is very much what this is. This is not a puzzle-solving escape kind of game. It is very much investigative, and that's the main thing you are doing is finding clues to paint that picture to then answer some questions. There are others in the series already, but I've got my hands on these two only, so I'll be combining my thoughts on them. It'll be ideally more helpful then as an overview of the line of games itself. Though I will tell you which one I like better, and you know, if I would recommend it, which one I would recommend. So starting from the top, the theme and the setting here, I think they do a pretty good job of picking places and settings that are interesting. They are very different from each other, and they are also very obviously adult-themed. So be aware of that. Again, I would assume that's apparent, but these deal with murder. They deal with, adult things, drugs, etc. Okay? So just so you know, that's what's going on, but they are very different time periods and settings in both of these. I assume that continues in the ones I don't have, so that's not bad. The aesthetics are pretty rough in these, especially in the Bird of Ill Omen set. This one's slightly better with the graphic design and just sort of the aesthetics in general. But it's sort of a hodgepodge of different styles of artwork. Some decent hand-drawn artwork, some pretty terrible CGI artwork for some of the faces of the people that are just right out of, early Pixar. There's some photography in here. There's a mix of fonts, some of which are very hard to read. Not cohesive, kind of a mess. A hodgepodge is really the best way I can put it when it comes to the look of the whole thing. So that's unfortunate. It was distracting enough and sort of messy enough to pull me out of the case I'm trying to solve in the box here. Replay value. Well, these are one-shot stories, so you have to know that going in, okay? They are maybe slightly pricey for the amount of time and involvement you are going to get, but that depends on how you feel about, say, Exit the Game series. These are, I suppose, comparable, and these are replayable by someone else. You can then pass this on, and they can play it. It's non-destructible. However, the reason I don't then give it a free pass, because those kinds of games don't necessarily bother me. The reason that it does not get a thumbs up is because I find the ending to be unsatisfactory in these. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when I talk about the game arc and things like that. But, it's not great replay value, not just because it's a one-shot, but because it feels like the game starts off great. They both start off with this nice, interesting display and slowly get worse towards the end, all right? Game arc. So you need to decide for yourself when you're done in this game. There is no point in which you go, okay, now is when I answer the questions at the end of the book. You just sort of decide when you want to stop. And the games give you this illusion that the less you look at, the fewer clues you acquire before you choose to answer those questions, the better you'll do. And I suppose that's true. They do assign you a score at the end of the game. However, that score is very meaningless because they do not explain to you what the score means or represents. They don't even tell you what's a good score or a bad score. So, for example, at the end of this one here, I got an 11. My score was 11. How good is 11? I have no idea. I am then supposed to, if I actually want to see how well or how badly I did, take this and I guess give it to someone else, have them play, and when they're done and they get a score, then maybe they'll get a 6. And I'm like, oh, my 11 was pretty good. But it might be a 20 for them, and I just have no idea what's a good or bad score, because they do not, again, give you that whole 5 to 10 is good, 11 to 14 is fantastic, and so on. There's none of that. Also, deciding when to stop for yourself could be stressful for some groups. And I could totally understand that, where you feel like, well, do we have enough information? Should I also look at this, or do we feel like we have it? So you start getting to that point of diminishing returns because you're really done. You just don't want to pull the trigger on saying, I'm done, let's look at the questions. The ease of play, I think, is fine. I think the free-form nature of the game is well handled. Again, that original reading a single card that gives you the setup and then displaying 12 or 15 cards or whatever it is, and looking at that and analyzing that is a fantastic jumping on point. That really is the main hook here, and I think it works very well as a main hook. Looking at everything, you can grab the card and look more closely and say, oh, there's a bullet there. Oh, what is that on the ground over here behind this body? I want to know what that is. So then you grab that card and flip it over. It tells you what's going on. It sends you to another place, right, if you want to go there. That or opening salvo there is fantastic. Just the returns on that, while interesting, lead to that disappointing ending where you go, well, I guess we did it. Yay, I don't know how well we did. So that's what I mean by those, that it begins very strong and ends a little bit weak. And then lastly, tactics, luck, strategy. As I said, opening display is very cool, very tempting. It gets less thrilling as you go on. There are interesting setups in which you get to the same piece of information from various clues, and I think that's well done, so that you can find a police report, let's say, from both this person who has access to it and this clue that leads you there. And I think that's well done. It seems like the weaving of story and path building that they created for you was handled carefully. So that's pretty good. Overall, I think these are going to suffer from a few different things, okay? It's a crowded, though fairly small, but kind of crowded area in gaming right now. This whodunit in a box series of games. They're going to suffer from the fact that these don't look great. Aesthetically, they're a real mixed bag. With this one looking okay, except for some of the bad fonts, and this one being a hot mess in the look. I mean, there's some really distracting, crazy-looking faces in here that are clearly bad CGI, like really bad, okay? So the game's going to suffer from all those things. It's a one-shot, so there is that. You don't know how well you did at the end, so there is that. The series right now is passable. I would recommend other crime-style series before I recommend this one. But if you're super into these games, I wouldn't necessarily say avoid these, don't play them. The cases in here work. They're fine. Now, I would recommend this one. His last card, I think, is a much better case, more interesting, better twists than Bird of Ill Omen. And that works out well because this is also the better looking one over this one. So if you are tempted by what you saw, I would say check this out. And if you love it, then, you can pick this up and check this one out too, knowing, again, those caveats going in. But as it is right now, for the series, I'm going to settle on a 5.5 from me. It's fine. I want to see more of it. I want to see it develop a little bit, but it starts strong and was sort of slowly leads to an end that is less than thrilling. And I would love to see it have more whiz-bang throughout, and at the end, a stronger end for this series would be a huge help, I think. So there you go. That is Crime Zoom, everybody. Thanks very much for checking this out with me. My name is Z Garcia. I'll see you on the next one.